Hey guys, today I'm going to be reading the story The Lost World. This was by Sir Ernest Arthur Conan Doyle, illustrated by Anders Westerberg. Let's read this. Let's begin. We're reading. A great man is a man who does brave things and has strange adventures, explained my good friend Gerald Huntington. He is a man who can look at death in the face, and he is not afraid. But we can't all have adventures, I said. And where are these great adventures? I've never found one. They are all around us, but it is only the great men who see them, Gerald replied. And that was how it all began. As I waited for my bus in the dark, rainy London streets, something was burning inside me. I was 23, an unimportant young reporter on the Daily Gazette newspaper, but I felt inside me the fire of ambition. Tonight, I was sure I was going to find something that would change my life. A brave adventure somewhere out in the world. So that cold November evening, I arrived at my office of the Gazette with my head full of these ideas. Mr. McArdle, the news editor, was at his desk. I always liked old McArdle, and I hope that he liked me. I hear that you are doing very well, Mr. Malone, he said in his kind Scottish voice. You have written some very good pieces for us. Thank you, I answered. Now, how can I help you? Sir, I have something to ask you. Could you possibly send me somewhere with a lot of adventure and danger? I'll try to write something good for the Gazette. I really will. Where would you like to go? Somewhere very difficult. I want to do something really hard. Oh dear me, Mr. Malone, that's very brave of you, replied McArdle. Do you really want to lose your life so young? No, I want to find out what my life really means, Mr. Malone said. These days editors only give jobs like that to famous reporters. But then he suddenly smiled. Wait a minute, I have an idea. Why don't you go and see Professor Challenger? Professor Challenger, the famous zoologist, was my surprised reply. Didn't he break the arm of that reporter from the Times? Yeah, but I am hoping that you'll have better luck. And you said that you wanted danger, didn't you? Here are some notes for you to begin with. He gave me a paper and I read it quickly. But sir, I said it to McArdle, putting the paper in my pocket. I don't understand. Why do I need to talk to this man? What has he done? He spent a year alone in a place somewhere in South America, McArdle said. No one knows where it was. He came back to London last year, and he said one or two things about his travels. But then, people started asking questions, and he stopped talking so freely. Either something wonderful happened there, or the man's a liar. Most people think he's a liar, so now he hits anybody who asks him questions, and he throws reporters downstairs. So, Mr. Malone, go and see what you think of him. And that was the end of the conversation. I went out of the office, thinking hard. Then suddenly I knew what to do. I went immediately to see Tart Henry, a scientist and an old friend of mine. Challenger, said Henry. He was the man who came back from South America with that impossible story. He said that he discovered some strange animals there. There were even some photographs, but nobody believed that they're real. Tarp Henry showed me some of the Challenger's books, and I opened the largest one after a long time. I found a few words which I could nearly understand. I wrote them on a paper and began my letter. Dear Professor Challenger, I am a young zoologist who has always been greatly interested in your works. You liar, laughed Henry. I finished my letter, asking if the great professor would kindly agree to see me on Wednesday to talk about some of the ideas in his book. He is a dangerous man, reading my letter, but luckily for you, I don't think that he'll answer this, said Henry. My friend was wrong. At 11 o'clock that Wednesday morning, I knocked on the front door of Challenger's fine house with a letter from the professor in my hand. When I stood face to face with the professor, I could not believe what I saw. He had the most enormous head that I have ever seen, a very big body and great hairy hands. His face was an angry red color, and his great beard was blue and black. He sat and looked at me with very deep gray eyes. Well, he said at last. I tried to talk like a scientist, but the professor did not believe me for a minute. You're talking rubbish. Did you really think that you could be as clever as the great G.E. Challenger? Challenger jumped to his feet, and I was surprised to see that he was only a short man. Then he attacked me. His great body was on top of me, and my mouth was full of his beard. Our bodies went flying out of the room, and we suddenly found ourselves in the street. A policeman stood beside us with a little book in his hand. What's all this then? He asked, looking at the professor. You were in trouble for the same thing last month, weren't you? He opened his book and started to write notes in it. No, please don't, I said. This time I began it. He didn't mean to hurt me. The policeman stopped writing and the professor looked at me with a small smile in his deep gray eyes. Come in, I've not finished with you yet. A little afraid, I followed Professor Challenger into the house. Now listen carefully, he began. I usually have no time for people from the newspapers, but your words to that policeman showed me that you are perhaps a little better than the rest of them. Now you know that I made a journey to South America 2 years ago. Very few white people have visited the small rivers which run into the great Amazon River. One night I was in a village deep in the forest. The Indians there took me to see a very ill white man in one of their homes. When I arrived, he was already dead. Beside him lay a bag. When I opened it, I saw the name Maple White and an address in America. I also found this book of his drawing. Look at it closely. He stopped, took an old, dirty drawing book from his desk, and gave it to me. They were drawings of Indian and a picture of a white man with the words Jimmy Culver on the book below it. The other drawings were of animals and birds. I see nothing unusual here, I said, and I turned the pages. The next drawing interested me more. It showed some very high, dark red cliffs with green trees all along the top. One great, tall rock stood alone next to the cliffs. Now, look at the last page, said the professor, smiling. I turned the page and nearly screamed. I hope to enjoy the story. See you on next video.